The church stood silent as a tomb. 200 guests sat frozen in the pews, their whispers dying the moment Brett Morrison opened his mouth at the altar. Simone Carter's hands trembled as she held her bouquet of white roses, her emerald green wedding dress shimmering under the soft light filtering through stained glass windows. She had chosen green instead of traditional white, wanting something unique, something that felt like her. Now she wished she could disappear into the marble floor beneath her feet. "I can't do this," Brett said, his voice carrying across the sanctuary. His gray suit looked perfect, his hair was perfectly styled, but his face held an expression Simone had never seen before. Cold, distant, almost cruel. Pastor Reynolds, an elderly black man who had known Simone since childhood, gripped his Bible tighter. "Son, perhaps we should step aside and—" "No." Brett cut him off. "Everyone here deserves to know the truth." He turned to face the guests, his back now to Simone. "This wedding was never about love. My parents arranged this entire thing because of a business deal with her father's company. Before he died, Mr. Carter made agreements that would benefit both our families. My mother and father have been pushing me to marry Simone for 2 years now. I went along with it because, well, it seemed easier than fighting them." Simone's breath caught in her throat. The bouquet slipped from her fingers, roses scattering across the altar steps. In the third row, she could see her mother Grace pressing a hand to her mouth, tears already streaming down her face. Her best friend Tasha, standing beside her as maid of honor in a beautiful red dress, reached out to touch her arm, but Simone barely felt it. "I don't love you, Simone," Brett continued, still not looking at her. "I never did. You're a nice person, I guess, but I can't spend my life with someone I feel nothing for. I've been seeing someone else for 6 months. Someone I actually care about. I'm sorry you had to find out this way, but I can't go through with this farce anymore." The church erupted. Gasps, shouts, the sound of Brett's mother Angela Morrison crying out in protest. But through it all, Simone heard nothing but the rushing of blood in her ears. She stood there in her emerald dress, a beautiful African-American woman who had spent months planning this day, who had believed in love, who had trusted the man now walking away from her without a backward glance. She wanted to run. She wanted to scream. She wanted to wake up from this nightmare. But her legs wouldn't move. Her voice wouldn't work. She could only stand there as Brett walked down the aisle, his parents scrambling after him, Angela's voice shrill as she called her son's name. Then a man stood up in the 5th row. Simone barely noticed him at first through her tears, but as he stepped into the aisle, the light caught his face. Julian Hayes. She knew of him, of course. Everyone did. The billionaire CEO of Hayes Technologies, one of the most successful tech companies in the country. He was 35, handsome in a quiet way, with dark hair and eyes that seemed to take in everything. He wore a navy blue suit that probably cost more than her dress. She had met him twice at charity events she had coordinated, brief polite conversations that had left her with the impression of a thoughtful, serious man. What was he doing here? Simone's mind struggled to process anything beyond her humiliation. Brett had invited several business associates, people he wanted to impress. Julian must have been one of them. Julian walked past the rows of shocked guests, his footsteps echoing on the stone floor. He didn't stop until he reached the altar, where he turned to face the congregation. When he spoke, his voice was calm but carried a weight that made everyone listen. "I'll marry her instead." The church fell silent again, but this was different from before. This silence held shock, confusion, and something else. Hope, perhaps. Or maybe just disbelief. Simone stared at him. "What?" Julian turned to her, and she saw something in his eyes that Brett had never shown her. Kindness. Genuine, deep kindness. "I'm serious, Simone. If you'll have me, I'll marry you right here, right now. You deserve better than what just happened. You deserve someone who sees your worth. I'd like to be that person." "You don't even know me," Simone whispered. Her whole body was shaking now. Nothing made sense. The world had turned upside down in the span of 5 minutes. "I know enough," Julian said quietly, stepping closer. "I know you're brilliant at what you do. I've seen you coordinate 3 charity events with more grace and skill than people with twice your experience. I know you're kind because I watched you spend an hour talking to an elderly woman at the hospital fundraiser last year when you could have been networking. I know you love children because you volunteer at the youth center every Saturday. I know you deserve to be loved and cherished, not humiliated." He held out his hand to her. "I'm not offering you a business arrangement or a marriage of convenience. I'm offering you a real chance at happiness. I've admired you from a distance for a long time, Simone. I never thought I'd have the opportunity to tell you. But I'm not going to watch you suffer when I could do something about it. Marry me." Please. Have you ever witnessed something so devastating it changed everything in an instant? What would you do if your world fell apart at the altar? Drop a comment below telling me your thoughts, and don't forget to subscribe to see how this story unfolds. Trust me, you won't want to miss what happens next. Simone looked at Julian's outstretched hand. Every rational part of her brain screamed that this was insane. You couldn't just marry a stranger, even one who seemed kind, even one who was offering salvation from the worst moment of your life. But as she stood there in her emerald dress, surrounded by the wreckage of her dreams, she realized something important. Brett had never looked at her the way Julian was looking at her right now. Brett had never offered her real kindness, only the appearance of it. Brett had played a part for 2 years while Julian, in 5 minutes, had shown her more genuine care than her former fiancé ever had. She thought about her father, gone 3 years now. He had built his company from nothing, always telling her to recognize opportunity when it appeared. He had also taught her to trust her instincts about people. Right now, every instinct she had was telling her that Julian Hayes was a good man. Why would you do this for me? She asked, needing to understand. Because someone should, Julian replied simply. Because you deserve it. Because I've wanted to know you better for 2 years, and maybe this is fate giving us both a chance at something real. I'm not promising perfection, Simone. I'm promising honesty, respect, and the opportunity to build something genuine together. No lies. No games. Just 2 people choosing to try. Simone looked at her mother in the 3rd row. Grace Carter's face was streaked with tears, but she nodded slowly. A small, encouraging nod that said, "Take the chance, baby. Take the leap." She looked at Tasha, who mouthed, "Do it." She looked back at Julian, at his kind eyes and steady presence. At the hand he still held out to her, patient, waiting. "Okay," she said softly. Then louder, "Yes. I'll marry you, Julian Hayes." The church erupted again, but this time with different energy. Confusion, yes, but also excitement. Pastor Reynolds looked between them, his weathered face showing his uncertainty. "Are you both certain about this?" he asked. "Marriage is a sacred commitment, not something to enter into lightly, even under unusual circumstances." "I'm certain," Julian said, not taking his eyes off Simone. "So am I," Simone agreed, and as she said it, she felt something settle inside her. A rightness she had never felt with Brett, even after 2 years together. Pastor Reynolds studied them both for a long moment, then slowly smiled. "Very well. If this is what you both truly want, then let us proceed. But first..." He gestured to the scattered roses at their feet. "Perhaps we should clean up a bit and start fresh." Julian bent down and gathered the white roses, handing them back to Simone. As their fingers touched, she felt a warmth spread through her that had nothing to do with embarrassment or shock. It felt like possibility. "Are we really doing this?" she whispered. "Only if you want to," Julian replied. "You can still walk away, Simone. No judgment. No hard feelings. I'll understand." But she didn't want to walk away. For the first time since she had arrived at the church that morning, she felt like she was exactly where she was supposed to be. "Let's do this," she said, and meant it. Pastor Reynolds opened his Bible, found his place, and began again. "Dearly beloved, we are gathered here today." This time, when the words were spoken, they felt different. Real. True. Julian's responses were clear and confident. When it came time for Simone to speak, her voice didn't waver. "I, Simone Carter, take you, Julian Hayes." In the back of the church, Brett Morrison stopped in the doorway, having returned after his parents caught up with him. He stood frozen, watching the woman he had just rejected marry a billionaire instead. His face went white as he realized what he had lost, what he had thrown away. But Simone didn't see him. She was looking at Julian, at the man who had stepped forward when everyone else had turned away. At the man who was sliding a simple gold band onto her finger because that was all they had on short notice. "I now pronounce you husband and wife," Pastor Reynolds said, his voice warm with approval. "Julian, you may kiss your bride." Julian cupped Simone's face gently, giving her time to pull away if she wanted. She didn't. When his lips met hers, the kiss was soft, respectful, and full of promise. The church erupted in applause, led by Tasha, who was crying and clapping at the same time. As they walked back down the aisle together, hand in hand, Simone caught sight of Brett's pale face. For a moment she felt sorry for him. Then Julian squeezed her hand, and she looked up at her new husband, at the man who had chosen her when she needed it most. "Ready?" Julian asked as they reached the church doors. "Ready," Simone replied. And together they stepped out into the sunlight, into their new life, leaving the past behind. The reception hall stood decorated and ready, 200 place settings arranged around tables draped in cream and gold. Simone stared at it all from the entrance, her mind still spinning. An hour ago, this room was meant to celebrate her marriage to Brett. Now she stood here as Mrs. Julian Hayes, and she barely knew how it had happened. "We don't have to stay," Julian said beside her. His navy blue suit jacket was unbuttoned now, and he looked more relaxed than he had in the church. "We can go anywhere you want. This is your day, Simone. Your choice." Grace Carter appeared at her daughter's elbow, still dabbing at her eyes with a tissue. "Baby, are you sure about this? I support you, you know I do, but this all happened so fast." "I'm sure, Mama," Simone said and realized she meant it. "Julian saved me from the worst humiliation of my life. He could have just sat there like everyone else. He chose to help." "He chose to marry you," Grace corrected gently. "That's more than help. That's a commitment." Julian extended his hand to Grace. "Mrs. Carter, I understand your concerns. I want you to know that I'll take care of your daughter. I'll respect her, support her, and do everything in my power to make her happy. You have my word." Grace studied him for a long moment, her dark eyes seeing everything. She had raised Simone alone after her husband died, had built a life for them through strength and determination. She didn't trust easily. But something in Julian's steady gaze must have satisfied her because she finally nodded. "You better keep that promise, Mr. Hayes," she said. "My daughter is precious. You treat her right." "I will," Julian replied solemnly. Tasha bounced over in her red maid of honor dress, her eyes wide with excitement. "Okay, so what's the plan? Do we still do the reception? Because the caterers are asking and people are starting to arrive, and honestly, this is the most dramatic thing I've ever seen, and I need to know what happens next." Simone laughed despite everything. Tasha had been her best friend since college, always able to find the light in any situation. I think we should stay. We're married. We might as well celebrate it." "Are you comfortable with that?" Julian asked. "Some of these guests might have questions. Comments. It could be difficult." "Let them talk," Simone said, feeling a surge of strength. "I'm not ashamed. Brett's the one who should be ashamed. You gave me a gift today, Julian. The gift of choice, of dignity. I want to celebrate that." Julian smiled, and it transformed his whole face. "Then let's celebrate." They entered the reception hall together, and the room fell silent. Simone could feel 200 pairs of eyes on them, could almost hear the whispered questions. But then someone started clapping. She looked over to see Dorothy Hayes, Julian's mother, standing at a table near the front. She was a petite woman with silver hair and the same kind eyes as her son. Her husband Richard stood beside her, a tall man with broad shoulders and a warm smile. "Congratulations," Dorothy called out, and her clapping grew louder. Richard joined in. Then Grace. Then Tasha. Then, slowly, the entire room erupted in applause. Julian leaned down to whisper in Simone's ear. "See? People recognize real love when they see it." But this wasn't love yet, was it? This was kindness, yes. Respect, certainly. But love? That took time. Simone wanted to point this out, but the DJ was already starting the music, and Julian was leading her to the dance floor for their first dance as husband and wife. The song was supposed to be her and Brett's choice. Instead, it was a beautiful melody she had picked but he had barely listened to. Now, as Julian held her carefully, giving her space but offering support, she was glad it was this song. Something she had chosen for herself. "I should tell you something," Julian said as they swayed to the music. "I didn't come to that church as just a business associate of Brett's." Simone's heart skipped. "What do you mean?" "I came because I was invited, yes, but also because I had heard rumors. Brett was bragging at his office about how he had to marry you for the business merger, how he was counting down the days until the deal was finalized and he could divorce you. One of his colleagues told my business partner, and my partner told me." "You knew?" Simone pulled back slightly. "You knew he was going to humiliate me?" "I knew he was planning something," Julian admitted. "I didn't know he would do it at the altar. I thought maybe he would go through with the wedding and then divorce you afterward. I came to the church planning to object during the ceremony, to stop it before you married someone who would hurt you. But when Brett did what he did, I realized objecting wasn't enough. You deserved better than just being saved from a bad marriage. You deserved a real one." Simone absorbed this information, trying to process it. "So you've been planning to, what? Rescue me?" "I've been wanting to know you better for 2 years," Julian said quietly. "Every time we met at those charity events, I wanted to ask you to dinner, to talk more, to see if the connection I felt was real. But you were engaged. I respected that. When I heard what Brett was planning, I couldn't stay silent anymore. Call it fate, call it opportunity, call it whatever you want. I saw a chance to do the right thing and maybe, just maybe, find something real in the process. The song ended and guests began approaching to offer congratulations. Julian's parents reached them first. Dorothy embraced Simone warmly as if they were already family. "Welcome to our family, dear," she said. "I know this all happened fast, but I've never seen my son look at anyone the way he looks at you. That tells me everything I need to know." Richard shook Simone's hand gently. "My wife's right. Julian is careful, thoughtful. He wouldn't have done this if he didn't see something special in you." More guests came forward. Some seemed genuinely happy. Others looked confused but polite. A few were clearly just there for the gossip. Simone handled them all with grace, years of event coordinating giving her the skills to navigate social situations even when her personal life was chaos. Then Brett's parents approached. Angela Morrison looked like she had been crying, her makeup smudged. Frank Morrison's face was red with anger. "This is outrageous," Frank said, his voice low but furious. "You can't just marry someone else. We had contracts, agreements." "With a man who refused to marry me," Simone replied calmly. "Your son made his choice. I made mine. Do you have any idea what this will do to our family's business arrangement?" Angela demanded. "Your father would be ashamed." That struck a nerve. Simone felt tears prick her eyes, but before she could respond, Julian stepped forward. "Mr. and Mrs. Morrison, I think it's time for you to leave," he said quietly. "You're upsetting my wife." "Your wife?" Frank spat. "This whole thing is a mockery. A circus." "No," Julian replied, his voice still calm but with steel underneath. "What's a mockery is your son leading Simone on for 2 years while planning to use her. What's shameful is you two pushing him into a marriage he didn't want just for business connections. What's truly disgraceful is you standing here blaming her for your son's cowardice. Now please, leave before I have you escorted out." The Morrisons left, Angela crying, Frank muttering under his breath. Simone watched them go, feeling a weight lift from her shoulders. She wouldn't have to see them again, wouldn't have to pretend to like them for Brett's sake. "Thank you," she said to Julian. "Always," he replied. The reception continued, growing more relaxed as wine flowed and music played. Simone found herself actually enjoying it, laughing at Tasha's stories, talking with Julian's parents, feeling more at ease than she had in months. When it came time to cut the cake, a beautiful 3-tiered creation she had designed herself, Julian was gentle and playful, making her smile when he dabbed a tiny bit of frosting on her nose. As the evening wore on, reality began to set in. She was married. To a man she barely knew. A billionaire who had upended his entire life to save her from humiliation. What happened now? Julian seemed to sense her thoughts. When the cake was served and they had a moment alone, he took her hand. "I want to be clear about something," he said. "This marriage is real to me, Simone. Not a business arrangement, not a charitable act. Real. But I also know we need time to get to know each other properly. I have a large penthouse with multiple bedrooms. You can have your own space for as long as you need it. No pressure, no expectations. We'll build this relationship at whatever pace feels right to you." "What if it doesn't work?" Simone asked quietly. "What if we're not compatible?" "Then we'll deal with that when and if it happens," Julian said. "But I think we will be. I've seen your kindness, your strength, your intelligence. I like who you are, Simone. I want to discover more. Don't you want the same?" She did. Despite the craziness, despite the speed, despite everything, she wanted to know this man who had chosen her. "Yes," she said. "I do." "Then that's enough for now," Julian replied. "We'll figure out the rest together." As the reception finally wound down, Simone hugged her mother goodbye. Grace held her tight, whispering in her ear, "Your father would be proud of you, baby. You landed on your feet. You always do." Tasha hugged her next, squeezing hard. "Call me tomorrow and tell me everything. And I mean everything." Then it was just her and Julian walking out to his car, a sleek black vehicle that probably cost more than she made in 2 years. The driver held the door open and Simone slid inside, her emerald dress pooling around her. Julian climbed in beside her, and the car pulled away from the reception hall. Simone watched the building disappear behind them, along with her old life. Ahead was only unknown territory. "Nervous?" Julian asked. "Terrified," Simone admitted. "Me too," he said, and somehow that made her feel better. They drove through the city in comfortable silence, Simone watching the lights blur past the window. When they finally pulled up to a tall building in the nicest part of downtown, she craned her neck to see the top. "This is home," Julian said. Our home now. They took a private elevator to the penthouse, the highest floor in the building. When the doors opened, Simone stepped into the most beautiful space she had ever seen. Floor-to-ceiling windows showed the city spread out below like a carpet of stars. The furniture was modern but comfortable, all clean lines and soft fabrics. Art hung on the walls, real pieces from artists she recognized. It's beautiful, she breathed. Let me show you your room, Julian said, leading her down a hallway. He opened a door to reveal a spacious bedroom decorated in soft blues and grays. A king-sized bed dominated one wall, and another door led to what looked like a massive bathroom. This is yours, Julian said. Do whatever you want with it. Redecorate, change it completely, whatever makes you comfortable. My room is at the other end of the hall. You'll have complete privacy. Simone walked into the room, running her hand over the soft duvet. It felt surreal, like she was living someone else's life. Julian, she said, turning to face him. Why are you really doing this? And please tell me the complete truth. He was quiet for a moment, leaning against the doorframe. When he finally spoke, his voice was sincere. Because I've been lonely, he said simply. I have money, success, everything people think matters. But I come home to an empty apartment every night. I attend events alone. I watch couples and families and wonder what that feels like. When I met you 2 years ago at that first charity event, you smiled at me like I was a real person, not just a bank account. You asked me about my hobbies, my interests. You listened when I talked. I've thought about you ever since. He pushed off from the doorframe, taking a step into the room. I'm not good at relationships, Simone. I work too much, I'm too serious, I don't know how to do the casual dating thing. But I know what I want. I want a partner. Someone kind, intelligent, genuine. Someone who sees me, not my money. I think you could be that person. And I hope I can be that person for you. Simone's heart ached at the honesty in his voice. Here was this powerful, wealthy man, and he was just as lonely as she had been. Just as hungry for real connection. I want that too, she admitted. I thought I had it with Brett, but looking back I see I was fooling myself. He never really saw me. Never really tried. You've shown me more genuine care in 1 day than he did in 2 years. Julian smiled. Then we're starting from a good place. He moved toward the door, then paused. Get some rest. Tomorrow we'll start figuring out our life together. Good night, Simone. Good night, Julian. After he left, Simone sank onto the bed, her emerald dress rustling around her. She was married. To Julian Hayes. It was crazy, impulsive, completely unlike her. It was also, somehow, exactly right. Morning light streamed through the floor-to-ceiling windows, and Simone woke slowly, confused about where she was. Then memory flooded back. The wedding. Brett's rejection. Julian's proposal. The penthouse. She sat up, still wearing the slip she had found in the dresser last night. Someone, probably Julian's housekeeper, had unpacked a few basic items for her. Her phone sat on the nightstand and she grabbed it, seeing 17 missed calls from Tasha and a dozen text messages. Tasha, girl, call me when you wake up. Tasha, are you okay? Tasha, is he treating you right? Tasha, should I come over there? Tasha, Simone Elizabeth Carter, I swear if you don't answer me soon. Simone smiled and texted back. I'm fine. Better than fine. Call you later. She showered in the massive bathroom, marveling at the rain shower head and heated floors. There were luxury toiletries in the cabinet, still in their packaging as if Julian had bought them specifically for a guest. Or a wife. After dressing in jeans and a simple blue blouse from her overnight bag, Simone ventured out into the penthouse. She could smell coffee and something delicious cooking. Following her nose to the kitchen, she found Julian at the stove, wearing dark slacks and a white button-down shirt with the sleeves rolled up. He looked different than yesterday, more relaxed, more approachable. Good morning, he said, smiling when he saw her. I hope you like omelets. I wasn't sure what you preferred, so I made a few options. The kitchen island held 3 plates, each with a different style omelet. Cheese and herbs on one, vegetables on another, and what looked like a Western omelet on the third. You made all of these? Simone asked, touched by the effort. I like to cook, Julian admitted. It relaxes me. Plus, I figured we should start learning each other's preferences. So, which one looks good? Simone chose the vegetable omelet, and they sat together at the island, eating breakfast as sunlight filled the kitchen. It felt domestic, comfortable, like they had done this 100 times before instead of this being their first morning together. I called my assistant this morning, Julian said between bites. She's arranging to have your belongings picked up from Brett's apartment. You won't have to see him or deal with him. Everything will be brought here. Simone set down her fork. Julian, you don't have to do everything for me. I can handle getting my things. I know you can, he replied gently. But you don't have to. That's the point of being married, isn't it? Supporting each other. Sharing burdens. Let me help, Simone. Please. She remembered the instructions she had been given, the reminder to accept help with gratitude instead of pride. Thank you, she said. That's very thoughtful. Julian smiled. You're welcome. Now, I took the day off work, which I never do, so we can spend time together. What would you like to do? You took the day off? Simone was shocked. Everything she had read about Julian Hayes painted him as a workaholic, someone who lived at his office. I got married yesterday, Julian pointed out. That seems like a good reason for a day off. Plus, I want to get to know my wife. So, what sounds good? We could stay and watch movies, talk. We could go out, see the city, do whatever you want. Simone thought about it. Could we just talk? I feel like we should really get to know each other before we do anything else. Perfect, Julian said. Let me show you my favorite spot. He led her to a room she hadn't noticed last night. It was a library, walls lined with books, a comfortable couch facing more of those incredible windows. They settled on the couch together, close but not touching, and began the process of truly learning each other. Julian told her about growing up as an only child to wealthy but often absent parents. His father ran a successful investment firm, his mother sat on numerous charity boards. They loved him, but they were busy. He spent a lot of time alone, reading, learning to code, building the skills that would eventually lead to his tech empire. I started my company when I was 23, he said. Everyone told me I was crazy, that I should work for an established firm first. But I saw a gap in the market for user-friendly business software, and I knew I could fill it. It took 5 years before we turned a real profit, but when we did, everything changed. Now we have offices in 12 countries, 3,000 employees, and we're valued at over $10 billion. That's incredible, Simone said. You built all that yourself. With a lot of help, Julian corrected. I have an amazing team. But yes, it started with an idea and determination. What about you? Tell me about your work. Simone explained how she had always loved bringing people together, creating experiences that mattered. After her father died, she had thrown herself into work, becoming one of the most sought-after event coordinators in the city. She specialized in charity events, finding meaning in using her skills to help others. I love what I do, she said. But sometimes I wonder if I should be doing more. My father always said I had the mind for business. He wanted me to take over his company someday. Why didn't you? Julian asked. Brett, Simone admitted. He said it would be too much stress, that I should stick with event planning. He said I wasn't cut out for the business world. Julian's expression hardened. He was wrong. I've seen you negotiate with vendors, manage difficult clients, coordinate events with hundreds of moving parts. You're absolutely cut out for business. If you want to take on more, you should. Maybe, Simone said softly. I'll think about it. They talked for hours, discovering shared interests and laughing at differences. Both loved old movies but disagreed on whether comedies or dramas were better. Both enjoyed reading, though Julian preferred nonfiction while Simone loved novels. Both wanted children someday, which made them both blush when the topic came up. Around noon, Julian's phone rang. He glanced at it and frowned. It's my assistant. I should take this. Excuse me. While he was gone, Simone wandered back to the windows, looking out at the city below. Her city. She had lived here all her life, but it looked different from up here. Bigger. Full of possibility. Julian returned, looking troubled. That was about your belongings. Brett is refusing to let anyone in the apartment to get them. He's saying they're his property now. Anger flared in Simone's chest. They're my things. Clothes, books, photos of my father. He can't keep them. He can't, Julian agreed. But he can make it difficult. Unless. He paused, thinking. Unless you go in person with a police escort. They can ensure you get your property without harassment. I don't want to see him, Simone said. I'll go with you, Julian offered. You won't be alone. We'll get your things and be out in 20 minutes. Simone wanted to refuse, wanted to let it all go. But those photos of her father, her mother's jewelry, her own belongings, she couldn't just abandon them. Okay, she said. Let's go. An hour later, they stood outside Brett's apartment building with 2 police officers. Simone's stomach churned as they rode the elevator up. Julian held her hand, his grip steady and reassuring. Brett answered the door in sweatpants and a stained t-shirt. He looked terrible, like he hadn't slept. When he saw Julian, his expression turned ugly. Of course you brought him, he sneered. I'm here to collect my belongings, Simone said, keeping her voice level. The officers are here to ensure there's no trouble. Take whatever you want, Brett said, stepping aside. It's all garbage anyway. Simone walked past him, Julian close behind. Her things were still in the bedroom she had shared with Brett, clothes in the closet, toiletries in the bathroom. It felt strange seeing them here, reminders of a life that already felt like it belonged to someone else. She grabbed her suitcases from the closet and started packing. Julian helped without being asked, carefully folding her clothes, handling her things with respect. Brett hovered in the doorway watching. You know he's just using you, right? Brett said suddenly. Rich guys like him don't marry normal girls like you for real. He probably has some angle, some business reason. Like you did. Simone shot back, not looking up from her packing. I was honest about it, Brett said. Eventually. He's lying to you. Making you think this is real. Julian straightened up, and Simone saw something dangerous flash in his eyes. But when he spoke, his voice was calm. Brett, I know it's hard for you to understand genuine feelings since you seem incapable of them. But I married Simone because I want to be married to her. Because she's remarkable and I'm lucky she gave me a chance. You lost something precious because you're too self-absorbed to recognize value when you have it. That's not my problem. It's yours. Brett's face went red, but he didn't respond. He just turned and walked away. Simone finished packing quickly, grabbing the framed photos of her father from the dresser, her mother's pearls from the jewelry box, all the small things that mattered. Julian carried her suitcases, and the officers escorted them out. In the elevator, Simone felt tears start to fall. Julian set down the suitcases and pulled her into his arms, letting her cry against his chest. It's over now, he said softly. You never have to see him again. You're free, Simone. Free to start fresh. And standing there in the elevator, held by a man who had shown her more kindness in 2 days than Brett had in 2 years, Simone finally believed it. She was free. She was starting over. And maybe, just maybe, she was exactly where she needed to be. Back at the penthouse, Julian helped her unpack, hanging her clothes in the massive closet, setting her photos on the dresser. When they finished, the room finally felt like hers. Like home. Thank you, she said. For everything. For coming with me, for supporting me, for just being you. You don't have to thank me for being your husband, Julian replied. That's what I signed up for. That evening they ordered takeout and ate on the couch, watching an old movie they both loved. Simone found herself leaning against Julian's shoulder, his arm around her, and it felt natural. Right. Julian, she said during a commercial. Oh. I'm glad you were at that church yesterday. He squeezed her shoulder gently. So am I. And sitting there in their home, their first real day as husband and wife behind them, Simone felt something she hadn't felt in a long time. Hope. Real, bright, beautiful hope for the future. A week passed in a comfortable blur. Simone settled into her new life with surprising ease, finding rhythms and routines with Julian that felt natural despite how new everything was. They had breakfast together each morning, talked about their days each evening, and slowly built a foundation of friendship that Simone had never had with Brett. On Saturday morning, Julian knocked on her bedroom door with an unusual request. I need to take you shopping, he said when she opened the door. Simone looked down at her jeans and green sweater. Is something wrong with what I'm wearing? Not at all, Julian assured her. You look beautiful. But you left most of your wardrobe at Brett's place and I want you to have whatever you need. Plus, there's a charity gala next weekend that I'd like us to attend together. You'll need something special for that. Simone hesitated. She had savings, could buy her own clothes. But she remembered her promise to accept help graciously. Okay, she said. Thank you. That's very thoughtful. Julian smiled, clearly pleased. Great. I'll drive. They took his car, a sleek silver vehicle that turned heads wherever they went. Julian drove them to an upscale shopping district Simone had walked past 100 times but never entered. The stores here were the kind with single items displayed in windows, where you needed an appointment just to browse. Julian, this is too much, Simone said as he parked. It's not, he replied. You're my wife. I want to take care of you. Besides, I can afford it and it makes me happy to do nice things for you. Please let me. They entered the first boutique, and a saleswoman immediately approached, her smile professional and welcoming. Julian explained what they were looking for, and soon Simone was being led to a private dressing room while clothes were brought for her to try. She tried on dress after dress, each more beautiful than the last. There were cocktail dresses in jewel tones, elegant gowns in soft pastels, and sharp business suits in navy and gray. Julian sat patiently on a plush chair, offering opinions when asked, his face lighting up each time she emerged in something new. "That one," he said when she came out in a deep burgundy gown. "That's the one for the gala." Simone looked at herself in the mirror. The dress was stunning, hugging her curves perfectly, the color rich against her skin. She felt beautiful, confident, powerful. "I love it," she admitted. "Then it's yours," Julian said. He turned to the saleswoman. "We'll take it, along with the blue cocktail dress, the green suit, and that casual red dress she tried on earlier." "Julian?" Simone started to protest. "You like them all," he pointed out. "Why shouldn't you have them?" Over the next 3 hours they visited 6 stores. Julian bought her shoes, handbags, jewelry, casual clothes, business attire, and more. Simone tried to keep track of the spending, wanting to protest, but every time she started to object, Julian would give her a look that said, "Please, let me do this." So she did. She accepted each gift with gratitude, thanking him sincerely, and slowly stopped feeling guilty about it. He was right. He could afford it, it made him happy, and she deserved nice things. At a jewelry store, Julian paused in front of a display of wedding rings. "You should have a proper ring," he said quietly. The one from the church was borrowed from Pastor Reynolds. Simone looked at the simple gold band on her finger. She had grown fond of it over the past week, but Julian was right. They should choose something together. "What do you like?" she asked. They looked at rings together, Simone drawn to simpler designs while Julian kept pointing out more elaborate options. Finally, they compromised on a beautiful band with small diamonds set in a delicate pattern. It was elegant without being ostentatious, meaningful without being flashy. Julian had them size it immediately, then slipped it onto her finger himself, right there in the store. Simone felt tears prick her eyes at the gesture. It felt like a renewal of their vows, a choice they were making together this time. "Perfect," Julian said softly. After shopping, Julian suggested lunch at a restaurant on the top floor of a nearby building. The view was spectacular, the food was delicious, and the conversation flowed easily. They talked about their week, about upcoming plans, about everything and nothing. "I want to show you something this afternoon," Julian said as they finished their meal. "If you're up for it." "What is it?" "It's a surprise. But I think you'll like it." They drove across the city to a modern glass building in the business district. Hayes Technologies was written in chrome letters above the entrance. Julian's company headquarters. "I want you to see where I spend most of my time," Julian explained as they rode the elevator to the top floor. "I want you to understand what I do, to be part of this aspect of my life." The executive floor was all glass and steel, with open workspaces and collaborative areas. Employees looked up as Julian walked by, some doing double takes when they saw Simone with him. He led her to his office, a corner space with windows on 2 walls and a view that rivaled the one from the penthouse. "This is beautiful," Simone said, taking in the minimalist desk, the comfortable seating area, the walls lined with awards and photos. "I spend about 60 hours a week here," Julian admitted. "Sometimes more. It's a lot, I know. But I love what we do. We create software that helps businesses run more efficiently, employ thousands of people, contribute to technological advancement. It matters to me." "I can see that," Simone said, studying a photo of Julian at a ribbon-cutting ceremony for one of their international offices. "You've built something amazing." There was a knock on the door, and a woman in her 50s entered. She had short gray hair, sharp eyes behind red-framed glasses, and an efficient manner. "Julian, I didn't expect you today," she said. Then she saw Simone and smiled. "And you must be the famous Mrs. Hayes." "I'm Patricia Chin, Julian's executive assistant. I've heard so much about you." "It's nice to meet you," Simone said, shaking her hand. "Patricia keeps this whole place running," Julian said. "I'd be lost without her." "Flattery will get you everywhere," Patricia replied dryly. "But seriously, congratulations to you both. The whole office is buzzing about the wedding. Very romantic." She handed Julian a folder. "The Robertson contract needs your signature, and the board wants to meet Tuesday to discuss the Singapore expansion. Also, your mother called 3 times. Julian grimaced. "I'll call her back." "Thanks, Patricia." After Patricia left, Julian showed Simone around the floor, introducing her to various department heads and key employees. Everyone was friendly, welcoming, clearly curious about the woman who had married their notoriously private CEO. In the cafeteria, they ran into a young man in his late 20s with an eager smile. "Julian," he called out. "Good to see you. And this must be Simone." "I'm Tyler Barnes, head of software development." "Nice to meet you," Simone said. We're all really happy for you guys, Tyler said. Julian talks about you all the time. He does. Simone glanced at Julian, who looked slightly embarrassed. Oh yeah, Tyler continued, oblivious to Julian's discomfort. Ever since that hospital fundraiser last year, he's been mentioning this amazing woman he met. We all figured he'd never get up the nerve to ask you out, so when we heard you two got married, we were shocked but also like, finally. Julian cleared his throat. Tyler, don't you have code to write? Always, Tyler laughed. But seriously, congratulations. You two seem great together. As they left the building later, Simone turned to Julian. You talked about me? For over a year. I told you I've admired you for a while, Julian said, looking sheepish. You made an impression. Apparently a big one, Simone teased. That evening, back at the penthouse, Simone tried on all her new clothes again, modeling them for Julian like they were teenagers playing dress-up. He applauded each outfit, making her laugh, making her feel beautiful and appreciated. Thank you for today, she said finally, sitting beside him on the couch in comfortable pajamas. For the clothes, for showing me your office, for including me in your life. Thank you for letting me, Julian replied. I know this situation is unusual. I know we're doing everything backward. But I like building this life with you, Simone. I like coming home to you. I like having someone to share things with. I like it too, Simone admitted. And she did. More than she had expected. More than seemed reasonable after just a week. They spent the rest of the evening watching movies, sitting close on the couch, comfortable in each other's presence. When Simone finally went to bed, she found herself wishing she didn't have to sleep in a separate room. But they were taking things slowly, building a foundation, and she appreciated that. As she drifted off to sleep, her new wedding ring caught the moonlight from the window. It sparkled softly, a symbol of the new life she was building. A life full of possibility, kindness, and hope. And tomorrow would bring more of the same. More moments with Julian, more discoveries about each other, more steps toward whatever this marriage was becoming. Simone smiled and let sleep take her, content in a way she hadn't been in years. Maybe ever. The following Saturday, Julian announced they were having dinner with his parents. Simone spent an hour getting ready, changing outfits 3 times before settling on an elegant blue dress from her recent shopping trip. She wanted to make a good impression, even though Dorothy and Richard had been kind at the wedding. You look perfect, Julian said when she finally emerged. He wore charcoal gray slacks and a deep green shirt that brought out flecks of color in his eyes. But you didn't need to stress. My parents already love you. They barely know me, Simone pointed out. They know you make me happy. That's enough for them. The Hayes family home was in an exclusive neighborhood, a sprawling estate with manicured lawns and a circular driveway. It was beautiful but intimidating. Simone took a deep breath as Julian rang the doorbell. Dorothy answered immediately, pulling Simone into a warm hug before she could even say hello. Come in, Dorothy said. I've been so excited for this dinner. I want to know everything about you. Richard appeared behind his wife, shaking Julian's hand and then Simone's. Welcome, Simone. It's good to see you again. The house was elegant but comfortable, filled with family photos and personal touches. Dorothy led them to a sitting room where appetizers were laid out on a coffee table. I wasn't sure what you liked, Dorothy said, so I made a variety. Please help yourself. They settled onto comfortable couches, and Dorothy immediately started asking Simone questions. Where did she grow up? What did her parents do? What were her hobbies? The questions were friendly, genuinely curious, and Simone found herself relaxing. I grew up on the South Side, Simone explained. My father owned a small manufacturing company. He started with nothing and built it into something successful. My mother was a teacher before she retired. They were wonderful parents. Were? Dorothy asked gently. My father passed 3 years ago, Simone said. Heart attack. It was sudden. I'm so sorry, Dorothy said, reaching out to squeeze Simone's hand. That must have been devastating. It was, Simone admitted. But my mother is strong. She helped me through it. Richard spoke up from his chair. Julian mentioned your father's company. Carter Manufacturing, correct? I knew him slightly. Leonard Carter. He was a good man, very respected in the business community. Thank you, Simone said, touched. He was the best. Dinner was served in a formal dining room, a delicious meal of roasted chicken, vegetables, and potatoes. Dorothy kept the conversation flowing, asking about the wedding, about how Simone was settling into the penthouse, about their plans for the future. I know the circumstances of your marriage were unusual, Dorothy said over dessert. But I want you to know Richard and I are thrilled. Julian has been alone too long. We were starting to worry he'd married his work instead of finding a real partner. Mother, Julian protested, but he was smiling. It's true, Richard agreed. You work too much, son. Always have. But since you married Simone, Patricia tells me you've been leaving the office at reasonable hours. That's a first. Simone's worth coming home to, Julian said simply, and Simone felt warmth spread through her chest. After dinner, Dorothy pulled Simone aside while the men talked business in Richard's study. Walk with me, Dorothy suggested, leading Simone out to a beautiful garden behind the house. The evening was cool but pleasant, and the garden was lit with soft lights. I want to give you something, Dorothy said, pulling a small velvet box from her pocket. This was my mother's. She gave it to me when I married Richard, and I've been saving it to give to Julian's wife. She opened the box to reveal a delicate gold bracelet with tiny pearls set along its length. It's beautiful, Simone breathed. I know you and Julian married quickly, Dorothy said, fastening the bracelet around Simone's wrist. I know some people probably think it's crazy. But I've watched my son for 35 years, and I've never seen him look at anyone the way he looks at you. That's not infatuation. That's not impulse. That's real. How can you be sure? Simone asked. Because I see the way you look at him too, Dorothy replied. You're gentle with him, patient. You listen when he talks. You care about his happiness. That's what love looks like, Simone. It doesn't always start with fireworks. Sometimes it starts with kindness and grows from there. Simone touched the bracelet, feeling its weight. Thank you. For this and for accepting me so easily. You're family now, Dorothy said firmly. That means you're stuck with us. The next day, Simone's mother Grace came to visit the penthouse. Simone had been nervous about this meeting, wondering what her mother really thought about the whirlwind marriage. Grace arrived carrying a casserole dish in her purse, looking around the penthouse with wide eyes. Well, she said. This is certainly different from Brett's apartment. Mama, Simone said, hugging her. I'm so glad you're here. Julian appeared from his study, greeting Grace warmly. Mrs. Carter, it's wonderful to see you again. Can I get you something to drink? Coffee? Tea? Tea would be lovely, Grace said. And please call me Grace. They sat in the living room, Grace perched on the edge of the couch, her sharp eyes taking in everything. Simone could practically see her mother cataloging details, making judgments, forming opinions. So, Grace said after a few minutes of small talk. You married my daughter very suddenly. I did, Julian agreed, not backing down from her direct gaze. And you expect me to believe it was out of love? No, Julian said, surprising both women. I don't expect you to believe anything. I expect you to watch how I treat Simone, to see how I care for her, and to judge me based on my actions, not my words. That's what I would do if I were you. Grace studied him for a long moment, then slowly smiled. That's a good answer. An honest one. She turned to Simone. Baby, are you happy? Simone didn't hesitate. I am, Mama. Happier than I've been in a long time. Then that's what matters, Grace said. She reached into her purse and pulled out a photo album. I brought some pictures. I thought Julian might want to see what you looked like as a little girl. They spent the next hour going through photos, Grace telling embarrassing stories from Simone's childhood, Julian laughing at pictures of Simone with missing teeth and wild hair. It was comfortable, easy family. Your father would have liked him, Grace said quietly to Simone while Julian was in the kitchen making more tea. Leonard had good instincts about people. He would have seen what I see. What do you see? Simone asked. A good man who loves my daughter, Grace replied. That's all any mother wants. Over the next few weeks, both families became more integrated into Simone and Julian's life. Sunday dinners at the Hayes estate became a tradition. Grace came to the penthouse every Tuesday for tea. Julian's parents invited them to charity events and family gatherings. Slowly, Simone stopped feeling like an outsider and started feeling like she belonged. One evening, after a particularly nice dinner with Julian's parents, they were driving home when Julian reached over and took her hand. Thank you, he said. For what? For giving my family a reason to get together more often. For making my mother smile like that. For fitting into my life so perfectly. Simone squeezed his hand. Your family is wonderful. I'm lucky to be part of it. We're the lucky ones, Julian replied. When they got home, instead of going to their separate bedrooms like usual, they sat together on the couch, talking late into the night. They discussed their childhoods, their fears, their dreams. Simone told Julian about her secret wish to write a book someday. Julian confessed he had always wanted to learn piano but never had time. We should make time, Simone said. Life's too short to put off the things we really want. You're right, Julian agreed. What else do you really want, Simone? She looked at him, at this man who had become so important to her in such a short time. I want this to work, she said honestly. I want us to build something real and lasting. I want to look back in 50 years and know that marrying you was the best decision I ever made. Julian moved closer, cupping her face gently. I want that too. More than anything. When he kissed her, it was different from the brief kiss at their wedding. This was deeper, fuller, a kiss that promised everything and asked for the same in return. Simone melted into him, feeling like all the pieces of her life were finally falling into place. When they finally pulled apart, both breathless, Julian rested his forehead against hers. I'm falling in love with you, he whispered. I think I have been since the day we met. I'm falling too, Simone replied. Faster than I thought possible. They stayed up talking until the early morning hours, curled together on the couch, making plans and sharing secrets. And when Simone finally went to her bedroom, she knew it wouldn't be long before she didn't need a separate room anymore. They were building something beautiful, something real, and she couldn't wait to see where it led. A month into their marriage, Julian came home with an unexpected proposal. Simone was in the kitchen experimenting with a new recipe when he walked in carrying a folder. I have an idea, he said, setting the folder on the counter. And I want your honest opinion. Simone wiped her hands on a towel. Okay. What's the idea? Hayes Technologies wants to expand our charitable giving. We donate money, of course, but I want to do more. Create programs, build infrastructure, make a real difference. And I want you to run it. Simone blinked. What? You're brilliant at event coordination and project management. You understand how to work with nonprofits and communities. You have the vision and the skills to make this happen. I'm offering you a position as Director of Community Outreach for Hayes Technologies. Full salary, full authority, full support. Julian, I don't have experience running a department. Neither did I when I started my company, he pointed out. You learn. You grow. And you have something more important than experience. You have passion. I've seen you at those charity events, Simone. You care about making a difference. This is your chance to do it on a larger scale. Simone looked at the folder, her mind racing. It was a huge opportunity, maybe too huge. But hadn't she been thinking about wanting more? About stepping into the business world her father had prepared her for? Can I think about it? She asked. Of course, Julian said. Take all the time you need. She thought about it for 3 days, discussing it with her mother, with Tasha, with Julian's parents. Everyone encouraged her to take the leap. Finally she said yes. Her first project was building a community center in an underserved neighborhood on the south side. The area needed resources, needed hope, needed investment. Julian gave her a budget that made her eyes widen and told her to make it happen. Simone threw herself into the work. She met with community leaders, architects, contractors, and nonprofit organizations. She listened to what the neighborhood needed and designed a center that would provide after-school programs, job training, health services, and community gathering space. Julian supported her every step of the way. When she needed advice, he gave it. When she needed encouragement, he provided it. When she needed space to figure things out herself, he stepped back and let her lead. 3 months into the project, they broke ground on the community center. The whole neighborhood turned out for the ceremony, along with local politicians and media. Simone stood beside Julian, holding a ceremonial shovel, feeling pride swell in her chest. This is amazing, Julian whispered to her. You're amazing. Working together brought them closer. They would spend evenings at the penthouse, Simone working on community center plans while Julian reviewed company reports, comfortable in their shared space. They would discuss their days over dinner, offering support and advice, celebrating wins and problem-solving challenges together. One Saturday, Julian suggested they visit the construction site together. The framework was up and you could start to see the shape of the building. Simone walked through the skeleton of what would become the gymnasium, imagining children playing basketball, learning teamwork, building confidence. My father would have loved this, she said softly. He always believed in giving back to the community. Julian came to stand beside her. Tell me about him. I want to know more. So Simone told him stories about her father. About how Leonard Carter had started with nothing, working factory jobs while going to night school. About how he had saved every penny to start his own small manufacturing business. About how it had grown slowly, carefully, built on quality and integrity. About how he had employed people from the neighborhood, giving them chances when no one else would. He sounds remarkable, Julian said. He was, Simone agreed. When he died, Brett convinced me to sell the company. Said it was too much for me to handle, that I should take the money and move on. I wish I hadn't listened to him. I wish I had tried to keep it going. What if you could get it back? Julian asked. Simone looked at him. What do you mean? The company that bought Carter Manufacturing is struggling. I've been watching their stock. They're looking to sell off some of their acquisitions. We could buy it back, return it to your family. You could run it, or we could find good management, but either way it would be yours again. Tears sprang to Simone's eyes. You would do that? If you want it, yes, Julian said. It's part of your heritage, your father's legacy. It should be in your hands. Simone threw her arms around him, overwhelmed by his thoughtfulness. Thank you. Thank you so much. You don't have to decide now, Julian said, holding her close. Just think about it. Whatever you want, we'll make it happen. That evening they had dinner at a small restaurant they had discovered together. It wasn't fancy, just good food and warm atmosphere. They had become regulars there, the staff greeting them by name, knowing their usual orders. Over pasta and wine they talked about the future. About the community center, about possibly reclaiming her father's company, about where they saw themselves in 5 years, 10 years. I want children someday, Simone said. Is that something you still want? Absolutely, Julian replied. I want a family with you. A real family. Kids running around the penthouse, family vacations, all of it. Not right away, Simone clarified. I want to finish the community center first, get settled in my role. Whenever you're ready, Julian assured her. There's no rush. We have time. After dinner, instead of going straight home, Julian drove them to a quiet park. They walked hand in hand along the paths, the evening air cool and pleasant. I love moments like this, Julian said. Just us, no pressure, no expectations. Just being together. Me too, Simone agreed. She stopped walking and turned to face him. Julian, I need to tell you something. Okay, he said, looking slightly nervous. I love you, Simone said. I'm not falling anymore. I'm there. Completely, totally in love with you. Julian's face broke into the biggest smile she had ever seen on him. I love you too. I have for weeks, but didn't want to push, didn't want you to feel pressured. I don't feel pressured, Simone said. I feel happy. Happier than I ever thought possible. Julian pulled her close and kissed her deeply. This kiss was different from all the ones before. This kiss was a declaration, a promise, a commitment. When they finally broke apart, both were breathless and smiling. Come home with me, Julian said softly. Really come home. No more separate bedrooms. No more holding back. Let's be completely married, Simone. Yes, she whispered. I want that too. That night, Simone moved her things into Julian's bedroom. It felt right, natural, like the next step they were both ready for. They stayed up late talking, kissing, exploring this new phase of their relationship. As she fell asleep in Julian's arms for the first time, Simone thought about how far they had come in just a few months. From strangers at an altar to partners in work to lovers sharing a life. It was unconventional, fast, maybe even crazy. It was also perfect. If you're loving Simone and Julian's journey so far, make sure you subscribe so you don't miss how their story continues. Comment below and tell me, would you have said yes to Julian's proposal? I can't wait to hear your thoughts. Life settled into a beautiful rhythm. Simone divided her time between overseeing the community center construction and exploring the possibility of reclaiming her father's company. Julian supported both endeavors, offering advice when asked but mostly letting her lead. Their relationship deepened, the intimacy of sharing a bedroom bringing them even closer together. Then, 3 months after their wedding, Brett showed up at Simone's office. Patricia buzzed Simone's desk. There's a Brett Morrison here to see you. He says it's urgent. Should I send him away? Simone's stomach clenched. She hadn't seen or heard from Brett since collecting her belongings from his apartment. Give me a minute, then send him in. She called Julian's office, but he was in a meeting. She left a quick message with his assistant, then straightened her shoulders and prepared herself. Brett walked in looking haggard. His suit was wrinkled, his hair needed cutting, and he had dark circles under his eyes. He looked nothing like the polished man she had almost married. Simone, he said. Thank you for seeing me. You have 5 minutes, she replied coolly. What do you want? I made a mistake, Brett said, sitting down without being invited. A huge mistake. I should never have called off our wedding. I should never have let you go. Simone stared at him. You're not serious. I am, Brett insisted. These past few months have been hell. My parents are furious with me. The business deal with your father's company fell through. My career is suffering because people think I'm unreliable. And I miss you, Simone. I miss what we had. We didn't have anything real, Simone said. You admitted that yourself at the altar. I was confused, Brett said. Scared. But I've had time to think and I realize I did love you. I do love you. Leave Hayes. Come back to me. We can start over, do it right this time. Simone stood up, anger flooding through her. You humiliated me in front of 200 people. You admitted you were only marrying me for business reasons. You've been seeing someone else for months. And now you want me back because your life is falling apart? That's not love, Brett. That's desperation. I can change, Brett pleaded. Give me another chance. You owe me that much. I don't owe you anything, Simone said firmly. I'm married to Julian. I'm happy with Julian. I love Julian. Whatever you and I had, it's over. It's been over for a long time, maybe forever. He's using you, Brett said, his voice turning ugly. Rich guys like Hayes don't marry girls like you unless there's an angle. He probably has a dozen women on the side. Get out, Simone said quietly. Now, before I call security. You're making a mistake, Brett said, standing. You'll regret this. The only thing I regret is wasting 2 years with you, Simone replied. Goodbye, Brett. After he left, Simone sat at her desk, hands shaking. The confrontation had rattled her more than she wanted to admit. Not because she doubted her choice, but because Brett's desperation was unsettling. Julian appeared in her doorway 10 minutes later, slightly out of breath. Patricia called me, he said. Are you okay? What did he want? Simone told him everything. Julian's expression darkened as she spoke, but he let her finish without interruption. I'm sorry you had to deal with that, he said finally. Do you want me to talk to him? Make sure he leaves you alone? No, Simone said. I handled it. He's pathetic, Julian. I feel sorry for him more than anything. Julian came around the desk and pulled her into his arms. I love you, he said. I want you to know that every day. You're not a business deal or an angle. You're my wife, my partner, the best thing that ever happened to me. I know, Simone said, hugging him back. I'm not doubting us. I'm just shaken. That's understandable, Julian said. Want to take the rest of the day off? We could go home, watch movies, order takeout. Actually, Simone said, pulling back to look at him, I want to go to the community center site. I want to see progress, remind myself of what we're building together. Then that's what we'll do, Julian agreed. At the construction site, work was in full swing. The walls were up now and crews were installing windows. The neighborhood kids had gathered at the fence, watching with fascination. Simone waved to them and they waved back excitedly. Miss Simone, one little girl called out. Is it almost done? A few more months, Simone called back. But it's going to be worth the wait. Standing there, watching her vision come to life, Simone felt her earlier anxiety fade. This was real. This mattered. Brett and his problems seemed very far away. That evening, the story of their unusual wedding hit the national news. A slow news day had led a reporter to dig up the story, and suddenly everyone wanted to know about the billionaire who married a stranger at the altar after her groom walked away. Simone's phone exploded with calls from media outlets. Julian's PR team went into overdrive. By the next morning, their faces were on entertainment news shows, their story being discussed on talk shows, their wedding video trending online. I'm sorry, Julian said over breakfast, scrolling through news alerts on his tablet. I didn't think they'd care this much. It is a pretty dramatic story, Simone admitted. Woman gets rejected at altar, billionaire steps in to marry her instead. It's like something from a movie. How do you want to handle this? Julian asked. We could do an interview, set the record straight. Or we could ignore it and let it blow over. Simone thought about it. Part of her wanted to hide to avoid the scrutiny. But another part, the part that was learning to be brave, wanted to own their story. Let's do one interview, she decided. With someone reputable. Tell our story on our terms. Then we move on with our lives. Julian's PR team arranged an interview with a respected journalist known for thoughtful, fair reporting. The interview took place in the penthouse, both of them dressed nicely but not formally, wanting to appear approachable. The journalist, a woman in her 40s named Patricia Hughes, asked good questions. She wanted to know how they met, what drew them together, how they were making the marriage work. I know people think we're crazy, Simone said. Marrying someone you barely know is not typical. But Julian showed me more kindness in one moment than some people show in a lifetime. He saw me at my lowest point and offered hope. How could I not take a chance on that? And you, Mr. Hayes? Patricia said. Why did you do it? Why marry a woman you barely knew? Because I had known her in the ways that matter, Julian replied. I had watched her coordinate charity events with grace and skill. I had seen her interact with people with genuine kindness. I had observed her strength, her intelligence, her compassion. I knew the kind of person she was, and that was enough. The rest we've been learning together. How do you respond to critics who say this was a publicity stunt? Patricia asked. I'd say they haven't seen us together, Simone replied. They don't know what we've built, what we share. People will always have opinions. But at the end of the day, Julian and I know what's real. That's all that matters. The interview aired the following week, and the response was overwhelmingly positive. People connected with their honesty, their obvious affection for each other, their commitment to making their unusual situation work. Brett tried to contact Simone twice more, both times being turned away by security. His parents reached out through lawyers attempting to negotiate some kind of business deal, but Julian's legal team shut that down immediately. Finally, Brett seemed to get the message. The calls and attempts at contact stopped. Simone heard through mutual acquaintances that he had moved to another city, taking a job there. She felt relief more than anything. That chapter of her life was finally, truly closed. One evening, as she and Julian prepared for bed, she brought up something that had been on her mind. I want to reclaim my father's company, she said. I've been thinking about it a lot and I want to try. Not to run it myself, not yet, but to oversee it. To make sure it operates with the values my father built it on. Then let's make it happen, Julian said. I'll have my team start the acquisition process tomorrow. I'll pay you back, Simone said. Eventually. However long it takes. Julian cupped her face gently. Simone, we're married. What's mine is yours. This isn't a loan or a favor. This is us investing in our family's future. In honoring your father's legacy. You don't owe me anything. Simone kissed him, overwhelmed by his support. I love you so much. I love you too, Julian replied. Now and always. As they settled into bed, Simone thought about how much had changed in just a few months. She had gone from a woman about to marry the wrong man to a woman building a life with the right one. From someone who let others make her decisions to someone stepping into her power. From lost to found. And it all started with Julian stepping forward when everyone else stayed silent. With him offering her a choice when she thought she had none. She would never forget that. Would never take it for granted. And she would spend the rest of her life showing him that his faith in her was well placed. 6 months into their marriage, Julian surprised Simone with a trip. Not a vacation exactly, but a working trip with a purpose. I want to show you something, he said over breakfast one Saturday. Pack for a week. Casual clothes, work boots, clothes you don't mind getting dirty. Where are we going? Simone asked. You'll see, Julian replied with a mysterious smile. They flew to a rural area about 3 hours away, where Hayes Technologies was funding the construction of a school for an underserved community. Julian had been working on this project for years, and he wanted Simone to see it, to be part of it. The community welcomed them warmly. The local leaders showed them around, explaining the challenges they faced with education, the long distances children had to travel to reach the nearest school, the lack of resources. This school will change everything, the community leader, an elderly woman named Mrs. Patterson, said. Our children will have a future. That's what you're giving us. Hope. Simone and Julian spent the week working alongside construction crews and community volunteers. They mixed concrete, painted walls, assembled furniture. It was hard physical work, but it felt meaningful in a way that sitting in an office never could. In the evenings, they stayed in a small bed and breakfast in the nearby town. It was simple, clean, nothing like the luxury of the penthouse. But Simone loved it. Loved the quiet, the simplicity, the chance to just be together without the distractions of their normal life. One night, after a long day of work, they sat on the porch of the bed and breakfast, watching the sunset paint the sky in shades of orange and pink. I never knew you did things like this, Simone said. The community center is public, but this is different. I fund about a dozen projects like this around the country, Julian admitted. Schools, medical clinics, community centers. Places that need help but don't make the news. I don't publicize them because that's not the point. The point is making a difference. Why didn't you tell me before? I wanted to show you, not tell you, Julian said. I wanted you to see what we could do together. Your community center inspired me to do more, Simone. To be more hands-on. You've changed me in so many ways. Simone leaned her head on his shoulder, watching the sky deepen to purple. I never imagined my life could be like this. That I could have a partner who shared my values, who wanted to make a difference, who loved me the way you do. I never imagined I could have this either, Julian said. I thought I was too busy, too focused on work, too set in my ways. Then you came into my life and showed me what I was missing. That night, lying in the simple bed in their room, they talked about their future. About expanding their charitable work, about the family they wanted to build, about growing old together. I want to do this forever, Simone said. Work beside you, build things that matter, make a real difference in people's lives. Then that's what we'll do, Julian promised. They made love that night with a new intensity, a new understanding of what they meant to each other. This wasn't just physical attraction or companionship. This was a partnership in every sense of the word. A meeting of minds and hearts and souls. The next day they participated in a small ceremony to dedicate the school. The whole community turned out, children excited about their new building, parents grateful for the opportunity. Mrs. Patterson gave a speech that brought tears to everyone's eyes. Thank you, she said, looking directly at Julian and Simone, for seeing us, for caring about our children, for giving us hope. On the flight home, Simone was quiet, processing everything she had experienced. Julian let her think, holding her hand, present but not pressing. I want to do more, Simone finally said. The community center is important, but I want to expand it. Create a model that can be replicated in other neighborhoods. Fund education programs, health initiatives, job training. Use your resources, yes, but also raise money from others. Build a movement. Julian smiled. Tell me more. They spent the rest of the flight planning. Simone sketched out ideas, Julian offered suggestions, and together they created a vision for something bigger than either of them had imagined. When they got home, Simone immediately started putting the plan into action. She hired a small team to help her, found office space adjacent to the community center site, and began reaching out to potential partners and donors. Julian watched her flourish with pride. She was confident now, sure of herself in ways she hadn't been when they first married. She spoke at board meetings, negotiated with contractors, pitched ideas to potential donors. She was brilliant and he made sure she knew it. One evening, after a particularly successful pitch meeting, they celebrated with dinner at their favorite restaurant. Simone was glowing, energized by the work she was doing. I never would have done this without you, she said. You believed in me when I didn't believe in myself. You always had this in you, Julian replied. I just gave you the opportunity to show it. We're a good team, Simone said. The best, Julian agreed. That weekend, Julian's parents invited them for Sunday dinner. It had become a weekly tradition, one Simone looked forward to. Dorothy and Richard had become like second parents. To her, offering advice and support, celebrating her victories and comforting her through challenges. Over dinner, Dorothy made an announcement. Richard and I have decided to start a foundation, she said. We've been inspired by you too, by the work you're doing. We want to contribute to it, support it, help it grow. That's wonderful, Simone said. We want you to run it, Dorothy continued. Both of you. We'll provide the funding, but you'll have complete control over how it's used. We trust your vision. Julian looked at Simone, letting her answer first. We'd be honored, Simone said. Thank you. This means so much. After dinner, while Julian helped his father with something in the study, Dorothy pulled Simone aside. I need to tell you something, Dorothy said. When Julian first told us he was married, I was worried. Not because of you, but because of how it happened. I thought maybe he was being impulsive, making a decision out of pity or obligation. But watching you two together these past months, I see how wrong I was. I love him very much, Simone said. I know you do, Dorothy replied. And he loves you. But more than that, you bring out the best in each other. You've helped him remember that there's more to life than work. He's helped you see your own strength. That's what a real partnership looks like. She pulled Simone into a hug. I'm so grateful you're part of our family. Driving home that night, Simone felt overwhelmed with gratitude. She had a husband who loved her, a family who accepted her, work that mattered, and a future full of possibility. What are you thinking about? Julian asked, glancing over at her. How lucky I am, Simone replied. How blessed. Julian reached over and took her hand. I'm the lucky one. That night, as they lay in bed, Julian brought up something they had discussed before. I've been thinking about children, he said. I know we wanted to wait, but I also don't want to wait too long. What do you think about starting to try soon? Simone considered it. The community center would be finished in 3 months. The foundation was just getting started, but she had a good team. Her father's company had been successfully reclaimed and was running smoothly under new management she had chosen carefully. "Let's wait until after the community center opens," she said. "I want to see that through first. But after that? Yes, I'm ready." Julian kissed her softly. "I can't wait to have a family with you." "Me neither," Simone agreed. As she drifted off to sleep in Julian's arms, Simone thought about the child they would have someday. A little boy with Julian's eyes or a little girl with her smile. A child who would grow up knowing they were loved, knowing they could make a difference, knowing that family meant everything. It was a beautiful dream. And unlike so many dreams, this one was going to come true. The community center's grand opening was scheduled for a Saturday in early November. Simone had been planning every detail for weeks, wanting the day to be perfect for the neighborhood that had waited so long for this resource. 2 days before the opening, an investigative journalist named Marcus Thompson contacted Simone's office. He wanted to do a follow-up story on her and Julian, focusing on their charitable work. Simone agreed, thinking it would be good publicity for the foundation. The interview took place in Simone's office at the community center. Marcus was in his 40s, professional but with sharp eyes that seemed to see more than most people. "Let's talk about how you and Julian met," Marcus said after some initial questions about the center. "We met at a charity event about 2 years before our wedding," Simone explained. "Just briefly. We talked a few times at various functions. And then he happened to be at your wedding to Brett Morrison," Marcus said. "Yes. Julian attended as a business associate of Brett's." "That's the story you've told before," Marcus said. "But what if I told you there's more to it?" Simone's stomach tightened. "What do you mean?" Marcus pulled out a folder. "I've been investigating your story for a feature piece. In the process, I discovered something interesting. Julian knew about Brett's plan to humiliate you weeks before the wedding. He was told by a business rival who thought Julian would use the information against the Morrison family's company." Simone felt like she couldn't breathe. "What?" "According to my sources, Julian attended your wedding specifically because he knew what Brett was planning. He went there with the intention of stopping it somehow." "How do you know this?" Simone demanded. "I have emails, phone records, testimony from the business rival who initially told Julian about Brett's plan," Marcus said. "I wanted to give you a chance to comment before I publish." "Get out," Simone said quietly. "This interview is over." After Marcus left, Simone sat at her desk, hands shaking. Julian had known. He had known for weeks what Brett was planning and hadn't told her. He had let her go through with the wedding preparations, let her walk down that aisle, let her stand there in front of 200 people waiting to be humiliated. Why wouldn't he have warned her? Why wouldn't he have given her a choice? She called Tasha. "I need you," Simone said when her friend answered. "Can you come to my office?" Tasha arrived 20 minutes later, and Simone told her everything. Tasha listened, her expression growing more concerned with each word. "Okay, before you spiral," Tasha said carefully, "you need to talk to Julian. Get his side of the story. Don't let some reporter drive a wedge between you without knowing all the facts." "He lied to me," Simone said. "By omission, but still. He knew." "Maybe he had reasons," Tasha suggested. "Good reasons. You won't know until you ask." Simone knew Tasha was right, but she was hurt. Angry. Felt betrayed in a way she hadn't since Brett's rejection. That evening, Julian came home to find Simone sitting in the living room, Marcus's folder on the coffee table in front of her. "We need to talk," she said. Julian saw the folder and his expression changed. "Where did you get that?" "A journalist gave it to me," Simone said. "He's planning to publish a story about how you knew what Brett was planning weeks before our wedding. Is it true?" Julian sat down slowly. "Yes, it's true." "You knew," Simone said, her voice breaking. "You knew he was going to humiliate me and you didn't tell me. You let me plan that wedding, buy that dress, invite all those people. You let me walk into that church thinking everything was fine." "I can explain," Julian started. "Then explain," Simone demanded. "Because right now I feel like our whole marriage is based on a lie." Julian took a deep breath. 3 weeks before your wedding, a business rival of the Morrison family contacted me. He told me that Brett had been bragging at work about how he was being forced to marry you for business reasons, how he couldn't wait for the deal to close so he could divorce you. The rival thought I would use this information to hurt the Morrison family's business interests. "Why didn't you tell me right away?" Simone asked. "Because I didn't know how," Julian admitted. "We barely knew each other. You were engaged to be married in 3 weeks. How do I approach you and say, your fiancé doesn't love you and is planning to use you? Would you have believed me? Or would you have thought I was the one with an agenda? Simone wanted to argue, but she knew he had a point. If Julian Hayes had approached her with this story before the wedding, she probably would have thought he was lying for business reasons. So you decided to go to the church instead, she said. I went planning to object during the ceremony, Julian explained. To stop the wedding before you made a mistake. I practiced what I would say 100 times. I was going to stand up when the pastor asked if anyone objected and tell everyone the truth about Brett's plans. But you didn't, Simone said. Because Brett did it himself, Julian replied. He rejected you right there at the altar exactly the way my source said he would. And in that moment, I realized that stopping the wedding wasn't enough. You deserved better than just being saved from a bad marriage. You deserved a real one. Julian moved closer but didn't touch her. I should have told you the truth sooner. I know that. But I was afraid. Afraid you would think I had manipulated everything, that I had some ulterior motive. I wanted you to get to know me first, to see that my feelings for you were real before I confessed that I'd known about Brett's plan. When were you planning to tell me? Simone asked. I don't know, Julian admitted. I kept finding reasons to wait. We were so happy and I didn't want to ruin it. I told myself it didn't matter because we had built something real regardless of how it started. But I was wrong. You deserved the truth from the beginning. Simone stood up and walked to the windows looking out at the city lights. Her mind was racing, trying to process everything. I need time, she said finally, to think, to figure out how I feel about this. I understand, Julian said quietly. I'll give you all the time you need. Simone went to the bedroom they shared, the one that had become theirs over the past months. She lay down on the bed, staring at the ceiling, trying to sort through her emotions. Was she angry? Yes. Julian should have told her the truth sooner. Did she feel betrayed? In a way. He had kept a significant secret from her. But did she doubt his feelings for her? That was the real question. And thinking about the past 8 months, about everything Julian had done, everything he had been to her, she couldn't believe his love was fake. He had supported her dreams, encouraged her growth, celebrated her victories, comforted her through challenges. He had introduced her to his family, included her in his life, shared his hopes and fears. He had loved her in 1,000 small ways every single day. Could all of that be a lie? Could someone fake that level of care and devotion for 8 months? Simone didn't think so. Around midnight, Julian knocked softly on the door. Can I come in? Yes, Simone said. Julian entered, looking exhausted and worried. I know you're hurt. I know I broke your trust. But I need you to know something, Simone. Everything between us is real. My feelings, my commitment, my love. All of it is completely real. I may have known about Brett's plan before the wedding, but I had no idea I would fall in love with you this deeply. I had no idea we would build this beautiful life together. That part, the important part, wasn't planned. It just happened because you're you and I'm me and we fit together perfectly. Simone sat up. I need you to promise me something. No more secrets. No more waiting for the right time to tell me difficult truths. If there's something I need to know, you tell me. Right away. No matter how hard it is. I promise, Julian said immediately. Complete honesty from now on. About everything. I'm still hurt, Simone said. And it's going to take me some time to fully process this. But I also know that what we have is real. I can feel it, Julian. It's not something you can fake. So you forgive me? Julian asked hopefully. I'm working on it, Simone said honestly. Ask me again tomorrow. Julian nodded, accepting that. Do you want me to sleep somewhere else tonight? Simone considered it, then shook her head. No, stay. I need to know you're here. They lay down together, not quite touching, both staring at the ceiling in the dark. I really am sorry, Julian said softly. For not telling you sooner. For making you doubt us even for a moment. I know, Simone replied. And I'm sorry I didn't trust enough in what we've built to immediately know it was real. They fell asleep like that, close but not quite together, working through the first real challenge of their marriage. Tomorrow would bring more questions, more conversations, more healing. But they would face it together. Because despite the secrets, despite the pain, despite everything, they loved each other. And love, real love, was worth fighting for. Simone woke to find Julian already up, sitting on the edge of the bed, watching her sleep. How long have you been awake? She asked. A while, he admitted. I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about everything, about how I could have handled it better, about whether you would ever fully trust me again. Simone sat up, pulling the covers around her. Julian, I need to tell you something. Last night, after we talked, I lay here thinking about our entire relationship. Every moment, every conversation, every gesture. And you know what I realized? What? Julian asked quietly. You didn't manipulate me into anything, Simone said. At that church you gave me a choice. You asked if I would marry you. I could have said no. I could have walked away. But I said yes because something inside me recognized that you were offering something real. Something good. She reached for his hand. Yes, you knew about Brett's plan. And yes, you should have told me sooner. But you didn't trick me into marrying you. You offered me an opportunity and I took it. Everything that came after we built together. Honestly. Genuinely. I should have been completely honest from the start, Julian insisted. Maybe, Simone agreed. But I also understand why you weren't. You were trying to protect what we were building. You were afraid of losing something precious before it had a chance to grow. I can't be too angry about that when I would probably have done the same thing in your position. Julian pulled her into his arms, holding her tightly. I love you so much, Simone. The thought of losing you because of my mistake. You're not losing me, Simone said firmly. We're going to get through this. Together. Like we get through everything. They spent the morning really talking about everything. Julian explained in detail how he had learned about Brett's plan, what he had thought about doing, why he had chosen to attend the wedding. Simone shared her feelings about the whole situation, working through her hurt and anger with honesty. By afternoon they had reached a new understanding. The secret was out, the truth was known, and they were stronger for having faced it together. What about the journalist? Julian asked. He's going to publish his story. Let him, Simone said. We'll tell our truth. We'll be honest about everything, including your initial knowledge of Brett's plan. People can judge us if they want, but we know what's real. That evening, Marcus Thompson published his article online. It was titled, The Billionaire's Secret, What Julian Hayes Knew Before He Said, I Do. The article laid out all the facts. Julian's prior knowledge of Brett's plan, his decision to attend the wedding, his choice to marry Simone instead of just stopping the ceremony. But Marcus also included a statement Simone and Julian had prepared together. Yes, Julian knew about Brett Morrison's plans before our wedding. He attended that day to stop me from making a mistake. But what he didn't know, what neither of us knew, was that we would fall in love. That we would build a real marriage, a true partnership, a beautiful life together. Our beginning may have been unconventional, but our love is as real as it gets. We make no apologies for how we found each other. We're just grateful that we did. The response was mixed. Some people criticized Julian for not being honest from the beginning. Others praised him for stepping in to help Simone. Still others focused on the love story aspect, finding romance in the idea of a man who saved a woman and then fell in love with her. Simone read some of the comments but mostly ignored them. What other people thought didn't matter. What mattered was her and Julian, their marriage, their future. The community center opened as scheduled that Saturday. The whole neighborhood turned out, along with press, politicians and supporters. Simone cut the ribbon with Julian beside her, both of them smiling despite the recent media attention. Inside, children immediately rushed to the new playground equipment. Parents explored the job training center. Elderly residents settled into the community room for tea and conversation. The center was alive with energy, with hope, with possibility. We did this, Julian said, taking Simone's hand. Together. We did, Simone agreed. After the opening ceremony, Dorothy and Richard pulled them aside. We saw the article, Dorothy said. And we want you to know it doesn't change anything. You're our family. We love you both. Thank you, Simone said, hugging her mother-in-law. Grace arrived with Tasha, both women beaming with pride. Grace hugged Simone tightly. Your father would be so proud, she whispered. Not just of this center but of the woman you've become. Strong, confident, building a life that matters. I couldn't have done it without Julian, Simone said. That's what marriage is supposed to be, Grace replied. Two people making each other better, building something bigger than either of them could alone. That evening, after all the guests had left and the center was locked up for the night, Simone and Julian went home. They were exhausted but happy, satisfied with what they had accomplished. I have something for you, Julian said, pulling a small box from his pocket. Inside was a delicate necklace with a pendant shaped like a key. It's symbolic, Julian explained. You hold the key to my heart, to my happiness, to my future. I want you to have this as a reminder that I'm yours, completely and forever. Simone's eyes filled with tears as Julian fastened the necklace around her neck. It's beautiful. There's something else, Julian said. I've been working on reclaiming your father's company. The deal is almost complete. By next month, Carter Manufacturing will be back in your family's hands. I wanted to have it finalized in time for the center opening, but the paperwork took longer than expected. Simone threw her arms around him. Thank you. For everything. For loving me, for supporting my dreams, for helping me honor my father's legacy. Always, Julian promised. A week later they received news that made everything else fade into insignificance. Simone was pregnant. They had only been trying for a few weeks, not expecting it to happen so quickly. But there it was, a positive pregnancy test, a new life beginning, a family growing. Julian cried when Simone told him. Actual tears of joy streaming down his face as he held her close. We're having a baby, he kept saying. We're really having a baby. We are, Simone confirmed, crying too. They told their families the following Sunday at the regular dinner at the Hayes estate. Dorothy screamed with excitement. Richard laughed and clapped Julian on the back. Grace cried happy tears and hugged Simone tight. Everyone was overjoyed, already making plans and offering advice. As the months passed, Simone's pregnancy progressed smoothly. Her belly grew and with it their excitement. They painted the nursery together, argued lovingly over baby names, attended birthing classes and prepared for parenthood. The foundation Dorothy and Richard had established flourished. Under Simone and Julian's guidance, it funded 3 more community centers, 2 schools and a medical clinic. Carter Manufacturing, back in Simone's hands, was restructured to operate more ethically and sustainably, honoring Leonard Carter's original vision. One evening, 7 months into her pregnancy, Simone and Julian sat in the nursery they had prepared. It was painted in soft yellow with white furniture, ready to welcome their baby. Do you ever think about that day at the church? Simone asked, resting her hands on her belly. Sometimes, Julian admitted. I think about how close I came to not being there. I almost sent a gift instead of attending. I almost decided it wasn't my business. But something told me to go. Fate, Simone said. Maybe, Julian agreed. Or just dumb luck. Either way, I'm grateful. Walking into that church led me to you, to this life, to everything I didn't know I needed. I'm grateful too, Simone said. Even for Brett's rejection. It hurt at the time, but it freed me. It let me find you. Their daughter was born on a warm spring morning. Sophia Grace Hayes came into the world healthy and beautiful, with Julian's eyes and Simone's smile. They both cried holding her for the first time, overwhelmed by love for this tiny person they had created together. Grace and Dorothy arrived within hours, both eager to meet their granddaughter. Richard and Julian's father stood together, looking at the baby through the nursery window, talking about the future and legacy. Tasha brought flowers and chocolate, declared herself the best aunt ever, and promised to spoil Sophia rotten. In the quiet moments, when it was just the 3 of them, Simone and Julian marveled at how far they had come. From strangers at an altar to parents of a beautiful baby girl. From an unconventional beginning to a love story that would last a lifetime. I would do it all again, Julian said one night, holding Sophia while Simone rested. Every moment, every challenge, every choice. Because it all led here. Me too, Simone agreed. I would say yes 1,000 times over. Years later, at Sophia's 5th birthday party, surrounded by family and friends in the backyard of the home they had bought together, Simone and Julian watched their daughter play. She was joined by her 2-year-old brother Thomas, both children laughing and running with pure joy. Tell me the story again, Sophia demanded that evening, climbing into bed for her bedtime ritual. About how Daddy married you at the church. Simone and Julian exchanged smiles. It had become Sophia's favorite story, the tale of how her parents met. Once upon a time, Simone began, I went to a church to marry someone who didn't really love me. I was sad and scared, standing at the altar in my beautiful green dress. And then Daddy saved you, Sophia prompted. Then Daddy stood up, Julian continued, and he said, I will marry her instead. Because he saw someone special, someone worth taking a chance on. And you lived happily ever after, Sophia finished, satisfied. We did, Simone confirmed. Because sometimes the best things in life come from the most unexpected places. Sometimes fate steps in right when you need it. And sometimes love finds you when you least expect it. After Sophia fell asleep, Simone and Julian stood in her doorway, watching her peaceful face. Do you think we should tell her the whole truth when she's older? Simone asked. About Brett, about Julian knowing his plan? We'll tell her when she's ready, Julian said. We'll explain that real love is about honesty, even when it's hard. About choosing each other every day, not just once. About building something real together. They walked to their bedroom, the home they had made together, the life they had built from an improbable beginning. "I love you," Simone said as she did every night. "I love you too," Julian replied as he always did. "Thank you for saying yes that day. For taking a chance on me. For building this beautiful life with me." "Thank you for stepping forward," Simone replied. "For seeing me when everyone else looked away. For choosing me." They fell asleep in each other's arms, just as they had every night for the past 6 years. And in the morning they would wake up and choose each other all over again. Because that's what real love does. It chooses. Every single day. Their story had started with rejection and ended with redemption. It had begun with a stranger's kindness and grown into a lifetime of love. It was unconventional, unexpected, and absolutely perfect. Just like they were.